All right. Good morning, everyone. We'll call this meeting to order. We are here for a budget workshop. Do that, thank you. We'll call this special meeting of the Monterey Peninsula Airport District Board of Directors to order. Roll call, please.
Director Amati,
Present.
Director Gagliardi,
Here.
Director Leffel,
Here.
Director Miller,
Here.
and Chair Pick.
Here. Thank you. Right.
This is the pledge, please.
Please join me. I pledge
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, communications, announcements, and informational items. Any from staff?
None from staff.
Any from board? None. Good? Good?
Good.
Good and good. Okay. Regular agenda items. Over to you for presentation of the draft fiscal year 2027 budget.
Yes, so you do have in front of you the draft fiscal year 2027 budget. We went over the first version of this with the Finance Committee at the last Finance Committee meeting. We've made a couple tweaks to it since that time, but we'll do the presentation. We'll tag team here a bit and happy to answer any questions. The goal is, getting feedback, getting a comfort level of where we are with our budget for the next fiscal year and bringing it back at the May meeting for adoption. So,
Terrific.
Want to start?
Sure. Good morning, everyone. So we'll just go slide by slide, and if you want to stop with questions, we can. Otherwise, I'll just kind of do the presentation and then we can have questions afterwards. But whatever your pleasure is. So what I do when I do this budget is I always am mindful of the macro environment. For travel, we have an interesting macro environment. Obviously, we are in a period of historically high fuel prices. I listened the last couple of days to both the American and United Airlines earnings calls. They basically say that I think American said 90% recovery, United said 100% recovery by the end of the year. Basically, they're saying travel demand is strong, travel demand is inelastic, and they can pass through the fuel price increases. So neither of them really expressed any concern about the fuel price. It takes them a while to get recovery because they've pre-sold tickets at lower prices, and so that is kind of a macro concern. We'll see where it goes, but we continue to believe that demand will be strong. The experts that do our forecasting for us, Mike Bound and his various capacity, different companies over the year, he's done the forecast again for us, and basically his forecast is basically dead on to this year's activity. So no stretch, I think, in terms of employments and passenger loads and those kind of things. So I think in terms of the commercial forecast, it's very conservative and consistent with performance that we've seen this year. There's a little bit in there for Chicago, but it's probably less than 1,000 employments because it's seasonal. And there's some upside that he mentioned, but we haven't really put those into the plan. So I think in terms of like the commercial airline element of the forecast, it's conservative and consistent with the performance the airports had, to date. So.
And Mark, I'd add, if we go to the next slide too, just anecdotally from talking with the United executives as we're planning our Chicago launch, just asking how things were going. And they said that really we are really well positioned because what they are seeing right now, if people are changing their travel patterns, they're not going international and they're staying domestic and going to resort and tourism type and nice locations, and that we are just that. Similar to what we saw during COVID, people wanting to come to a beautiful location that has the outdoor amenities as well as other nice things to do. So they felt that, you know, for us, we were really well positioned, even with what they are seeing in travel pattern changes.
Go ahead, Carl.
I know a lot of the airlines, especially the legacy airlines, buy their fuel and futures. Any indication of when that will catch up with them? I mean, they're rarely going on the spot market to pick up.
Correct. Yeah, I mean, there's a whole science to that. Delta famously has their own refinery, so but you know, American and United do not. But yes, yeah. So I think the forward forecast is I think they're planning on like $4 fuel. But again, they believe that they can have recovery of those costs through increased prices. And so they're not predicting in their earnings in their forward guidance that they'll actually have any decrease in profitability.
Jonathan?
Yeah, and I was just going to ask, you had mentioned that, they're passing through the fuel pricing increases. So what is the rate that we're seeing flight prices increase?
I don't know that information. They don't really they don't disclose that. I don't know how that would go to a ticket price, but that's not something that they cover in detail in their calls.
Okay.
But they do talk about this recovery. And then also just industry-wise, I guess United has given up their attempt to take over American, and American has rebuffed them. So
At the moment.
Mm.
that was discussed in the call as well.
Yeah, I was actually just kind of curious. I mean, the domestic fuel cost is set by WTI and Brent, correct? Or not Brent, WTI.
Correct.
So I mean, the domestic fuel, I don't think that the domestic fuel increase would be as great as, say, Singapore, which is absolutely connected to Brent.
Correct. Yes. Yeah, and you can see that actually. We're on a slide right here.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
I like this.
Yeah.
Yeah, all right.
And then you got the crack spread. So,
Okay.
all right. So we'll go through these assumptions because this really kind of drives a lot of what we'll talk about a little bit later. So the commercial activity again is very much on par with our forecasts and our budget for this year. Consistency in methodology, consistency in source methodology. We will take you through rates and charges increases. So because we are, an FAA recipient, we have the obligation to be self-sustaining. So in an environment where we will be taking on significant debt, self-sustaining really means being able to have adequate debt service coverage. So that drives a lot of the discussion here. So when we looked at the budget and we looked at kind of the levers that we can pull for additional revenues, we can pull additional revenues on the commercial airline side through landing fees, apron fees, RON fees. We can pull the lever of occupancy costs in the terminal. We can also, and then as a landlord, most of our revenue is determined by CPI increases because that's what's in the leases. This budget has a 3% increase in it. We'll get the final print in May. The most recent is 3.3, so I think 3% is pretty conservative. And then in terms of then there's a lot of the revenue stream, which is a function of basically like rental cars. It's just a function of volume, which we anticipate to be pretty much on par from where it has been so far. And then rates and charges would affect parking as well, and that's a significant source of revenue for us. So if you look at kind of like the proverbial nut that we have to crack. What I did when I kind of designed the plan and looked at where we needed to be, I looked at not the exact amount of debt service in fiscal 27, but kind of what that would be annualized to make sure we're, we don't think we're okay because we only have, let's say, 9 months of debt service. So these debt service numbers are exactly what we have in our current plan of finance, and that's kind of like the latest and greatest. It certainly assumes that we will be able to close the TIFIA loan at basically 2.63%, which is basically half the federal rate.
Great.
What that rate is actually set at when we actually close the loan will be that'll be subject to market fluctuations. I will say, just on that note, we are well engaged with TIFIA on this closing process. I have to run out today by at least no later than 11 o'clock for our weekly cadence call. But we're in really good shape with them. They're engaged now. Their lawyers are engaged. We anticipate getting a draft loan agreement from them shortly. So I think our progress there is really good. The balance of the capitalization to take out the $50 million of the interim notes are the long-term bonds that we'll issue about at the same time. And those are, they should have about a 5% coupon rate. Again, this is all part of the plan of finance, and you'll see later on in the presentation that these numbers are exactly what we're looking at here. There is a potential upside. We have applied for an ATP grant for the passenger boarding bridges. To the extent that we were to get any of those monies, that becomes basically interest-free money. And so the trade-off is you would get a little less TIFIA money, but basically you get 0% money instead of 2.63% money. So that's out there, that's been applied for, and we may get it, we may not. It's competitive. Is that a fair statement?
That is a fair statement, yes, and they have not announced the awards yet, so we'll see.
So again, wrapping up the capitalization. So basically the plan is close TIFIA, issue bonds, redeem the interim notes, and that'll be the permanent capital structure for the airport for the next 30 years. It's fixed rate financing. And that's basically the nut that we're going to have to crack this year and all future years.
Yeah.
Because it's not going to go away. So that's the framework. That's the framework that the plan of finance team is working with every day. That's the plan of finance that we're giving to TIFIA, and so that's that really drives kind of where we need to be. And so going to the next slide.
If I would, before we leave.
Mark, if you just hold up there.
I had one question on the last slide.
Sure.
It's in the rates and charges under there. Okay, so we're having basically days cash on hand. We're dropping our debt service coverage ratio by 7 points. Is that the new future? Like a 1.5% or 1.5 times?
Okay, so good question. So the 26 budget, the debt coverage ratio really it didn't anticipate all this debt because all this debt wasn't in place. It really was looking at covering any sort of interim financing. So what's operative now is 1.5 is kind of like the magic number. 1.5 is like 1.5 coverage. Yeah. So the actual covenant will probably be 1.25. That's kind of
the lower end of the band.
Correct. 1.25 is usually the minimum DCR. So 1.5 is where you want to be. Show that you have room. You're not skimming the bottom there.
Right.
So the days cash on hand is at the end of the year, a little lower than you would anticipate it would be, and that has to do with some of the mechanics of like the grant money. They'll only give you 90% until project completion. So some of that final 10%, because project completion is probably going to be in the first or second month of fiscal 28.
Eight.
Our cash balance will come back up.
All right, okay.
The cash balance also will be a function of where we lock in the final financing in terms of
Yeah.
figure out like, well, what do we really need to borrow and how much, where we are on our cash. And so that number will probably fluctuate, but just the way the model works, because the final payments for everything,
Yeah.
kind of final funding happens a month or two after it'll come back up again.
So, okay, great. Then that's where I'm getting, is that this rate expresses kind of a transient condition in 27, but what's the going forward? Is it going to be a split? I mean, are we going to be about a year days of cash on it?
Yeah, again, in the plan of finance, 400 days is kind of like where we want to be as our
Right.
minimum, right? So basically it's a year's, think of it a year's worth of OpEx plus, a little cushion.
Okay. All right, great. Thank you.
Okay. So getting into some of the mechanics of debt coverage. So again, this is all reflected in the plan of finance. So how do we pay for our debt going forward? So there's what I call the net operating income of the airport, which is all revenue less all operating expenses. We are going to have on our 400 and plus days of cash, we're going to have interest income on that. And we will also be able to use PFCs towards debt service after we kind of get through the PFC matching period. That's what's in the plan of finance for fiscal 27. If you look at the plan of finance after fiscal 27, we're actually going to be using a lot more of the PFCs for debt service. CFCs, we were originally thinking we might be able to use some portion of CFCs towards debt service in the terminal, but since the rental car operations are not going to be in the terminal, we can't apply that to terminal debt service. But it was a very, very small, it was about 3% of the total space before. So it was a novel number.
Mark, one question for you here.
Yeah.
On that, I mean, it won't be a direct, but we'll still, I mean, it's all going into the budget or the bucket, right?
Correct. Yes.
So it may not show up in terms of direct CFCs to that percentage, but we're still capturing that revenue from the.
Correct.
And we'll still use it for the capital
Right,
project,
Right.
just not for the terminal. So
Right.
for the rental.
Oh, we're not going to use the rental CFCs or anything.
In the terminal, because they're not in the terminal.
They're
If
gonna
we
have a
had
hut in
office
the
space
lot.
In there,
Uh,
then we could have used it, but.
That is exactly the question I was asking. Is that, I mean, accounting wise, it's not going to look that, but I mean, the money's there. And we're
No, absolutely.
For use on other expenses.
on complete, oh, wow. It has to be
Mhm.
that
Yeah.
prescribed. Or
And
that
so
prescribed.
we get in, when we talk a little bit later about the CapEx project that we're going to do for the rental cars, that's where the CFC money is going.
Okay.
Also, like today, we've got, I don't know, almost $600,000 in CFCs on the balance sheet right now because of the rates and charges and the alternate calculation that was approved recently, going to that 850 a day. That significantly increased our CFC collections.
Okay. All right.
We will put that money to good use.
Yeah. I just didn't know that it had to be that prescriptive.
Correct. Okay, so what are we servicing then? So the existing debt service is the Caltrans loan, and then I think we have the PG&E loan. And so that's, I think, got another like 15 years on it. Again, fixed rate financing. The TIFIA debt service and the breakout of the bonds between terminal program overhead and landside is again straight from the plan of finance. And if you remember that number 2,622,000, you'll see that when I get to the plan of finance side slide. So that puts us budgeted at 153 coverage, and just as a reference point, the plan of finance is 155 coverage. So we're right where we need to be. Okay. So raising charges. So when we looked at raising charges, again, there's raising charges increases that affect CPE, and then it's raising charges increases that don't affect CPE at all, right? So obviously, anything that we do with the commercial airlines is an increase to CPE. So any of these increases that you see here on commercial aviation and in the terminal are all in the calculation of this $13 CPE number. So we are recommending that there be increases, first of all, to the landing fee. And Chris, you had some interesting comments on that $3.50, correct? You talked to somebody about that, and they said that was like a good number.
Yeah, Mike Bound
Yeah.
looked at that. You know, we had Mike, because he's worked in the airline industry, really kind of give us a comfort check on the rates and charges and what we're looking at. And he said that that was not low, but that was a solid number for us and not something that the airlines would hiccup on. So just
Yeah, thank
again, wanted to really make sure as we're pushing up a little bit that, you know, and this is where you'll see a little bit different. We did tweak a few of these down slightly, just wanting to make sure we keep our relationship with our tenants, you know, comfortable as we go through this phase of, you know, especially rental cars and the airlines. You know, we're having regular cadence meetings with them, talking about the space and how the space will be used in the new terminal, et cetera. So we've tweaked these down just slightly, just feeling that we needed to be a little less aggressive.
Okay, so so the increases that are really operative here are an increase of the landing fee from $3 to $3.50, increase of the apron fee from $1.10 to $1.45, and an increase in the RON fee. The fuel flowage fee, we're recommending another penny, and an increase in the landing fees for general aviation as well. Go to the next slide. The fuel flowage fee, again, this is on the GA side, going from another penny, both Jet A and the low lead. On the hangar rental side, the increase here, this $5.81, is the rate increase that was discussed when we originally set the rates and charges for the new box hangars for our GA tenants. And this is the number that was discussed and presented in terms of the 5-year ramp up from what the initial rate was to what we believe market should be. So this is a rate that has been socialized amongst our GA tenants already. On the terminal space, we're recommending an increase from $7.35 a square foot to $7.75 a square foot, and a small increase in the utility costs, because those haven't been increased in quite a while. And we've obviously had increases in utilities, as you'll see a little later on in the presentation. Parking, we are recommending that so we've talked to Republic Parking, now going by Reimagined, about our parking solution and our rates. We're recommending an increase across the board to long-term, short-term, and the premium lot. They believe that these rates are in line with what they're seeing in the marketplace, so they didn't express any concern about that. And when we get to the capital budget, you'll see what we're proposing for this shuttle service and what we're going to do to facilitate parking from the new parking lot to the legacy terminal for this coming fiscal year.
And we did not increase the parking, the long-term last year. So
Yeah, we held off on
Took
that.
it, we held off.
The taxi increase, I think Chris has been traveling and noticed that, you know, we seem to be out of market on that. And the belief is that $4 is more of a market rate. So that's our recommendation there.
We have never changed that one since we instituted it. So you can see that the last one was 2012.
Long time ago.
Long time ago. But we had, we were watching the market and the market stayed pretty similar, but over the last couple of years, it has started to increase. And I'll give an example is I was at Dulles, it was $5.
Yeah.
LAX is 5 or 6 right now, going to something like 8, 9, or 10.
One of them's going to 12.
One of them's going to 12. Yeah. So we are definitely currently out of market for the charges that we're doing for TNCs. So we feel a small increase this year and potentially another one next year would be appropriate.
And I might point out to everybody that in 12, we went from $0 to $3 because that was the start of the Regional Taxi Authority.
Mm.
So we had nothing prior to that. We just had a white cab that paid us $3,000 a month and was behind 18 months in paying us when we started it. So that was anyway, this is really, I think, a way to ease into where we need to be.
Joe?
Yeah, how do we get the TNCs to charge that? Because they're going to run, how do we notify them and then they start adding that?
Yeah, so we have a contract with them which says that we do set a rate to
Okay.
charge and they will pay that. So we will, once approved, and if we get a nod today, we'll start that communication with them and let them know that we plan an increase. And then and same with Reimagine Parking, we give them a heads up and that's why we've really moved everything till May for approval.
Yeah.
So that they have a month plus to implement and make the changes in their system. It's really software changes.
Yeah,
that they
sure.
need to make.
How do we see it? How do we get the accounting of that? Do we track it and
No,
do we
it's-
estimate the
no,
number?
We have a geofence.
Okay.
There's a geofence that when TNCs come within the area of the geofence on the property, that isn't that.
Got it.
is
Catching.
implemented
Yeah,
as
yeah,
well.
yeah. Okay, got it. No, I understand. Okay, that's perfect. Great. Yeah. Trust but verify.
Yeah, love that. Yeah.
And that is, and then we have some very small increases in a couple other items. We think our costs of, for example, our cost of badging needs to be increased because it's, again.
It's a
we've done-
bargain.
We've looked at market and
Yeah.
it's kind of low, so.
And we're also implementing some new software this year too. So we really absolutely can justify that component of it that we are currently you hand fill out a paper.
Yeah.
It's going to be electronic. So that the onus is on the badge person that's asking that they put their information in accurately.
Yeah. Okay.
So that's where we really have to tighten up with
Yeah.
TSA and making sure everything is 100% accurate and everything, what people put in the system matches what their documentation will say.
Okay. All right. I mean, as a badge recipient, I'm always shocked at how low that is.
Okay.
I'm sure my GA partners or friends would disagree, but I'm always shocked at that.
Okay.
Okay, so let's look at the P&L, the big picture. This is our operating, and we'll go through all these in detail. But so the operating revenue less the OpEx gives us the operating income. That 3.4 million is the number that we saw in that calculation of the debt service coverage. So that is the number that's one of the elements of what we use to meet our what we will use to meet our debt coverage requirements for compliance. If you so if you look at where we're projecting to be, $3.4 million bottom line, above where the fiscal 26 budget was. But pretty much online with where the forecast is for this year. Basically, next year, we've got increased revenues, but we also have increased expenses. we kind of end up at kind of like the same number for a variety of reasons, which we'll go through. Some things to think about.
Can I ask one question?
Yeah.
So I know our wish is that we are open in June of 2027. As we go through, do you anticipate, I mean, if we have any changes, then will that impact
We
this
would
in
bring
any
back a
way?
budget amendment if we are open and we have changes that are necessary. Once we get a little bit more schedule certainty, then we would bring back a budget amendment request for the board to consider if we needed to add staff or add additional things. So that would come at a later time, but at the moment, we believe that this is what we can predict today.
Okay.
Okay, so the revenue side really is driven by rates and charges. And so in terms of the calculations that are what I call price volume calculations, I haven't assumed really any increases in volume. So price times volume just gives you a larger number if you increase the price, i.e. through the rates and charges. So the commercial aviation is all a function of rates and charges, landing fees, rates and charges, terminal space, rates and charges. So basically everything you see here on this slide is rates and charges, price volume. FBO rents, that's a function of CPI increases in their long-term leases, fuel flowage fees. We get guidance from Monterey Fuel Company on volume, and then the fee is a function of price volume. Leases on the hangars on the north side are a function of CPI escalations. And then non-aviation, most significant increase here is that we're going to pick up some good revenue basically on Building C over at Fenton and Keller because we're going to have that. We have that lease from HP for half the building for all of fiscal 27, and then we've gotten 2 tenants so far for the balance of the space, and I've modeled in the balance of the space to come in mid-year. So, and we've already had some inquiries on that. So I think that's a very realistic number there. And the other operating, there's nothing really to talk about here of any significance. So let's talk about OpEx. So OpEx, when we think about OpEx, we think about really 2 main buckets of costs, or 3 main buckets of costs. So there's wages and benefits, and we'll get into that in more detail, but broad strokes for staff, there's no increase in staff in this budget. And so if you look at the staff wages and benefits, there's a 3% increase in here that's modeled, and so that's what the staff number is. It assumes that we will fill 2 positions that are currently still open, one in the planning area and one in the finance area. But in terms of
Hope springs eternal.
yes, hope springs eternal. But so in terms of what we're doing with staff, again, it's kind of status quo. We believe we can execute with the staff that we have. The police and fire is a pure actuarial calculation, what we're required to do on the UAL. And again, it's just actuarial math. Contract services, the police number is based on the most recent budget that I got from City of Delray Oaks in the last couple of weeks. That is That is basically half the budget. And then they've given us this credit for the UAL calculation, which is kind of like on their side of the ledger before they split the baby in half and do the calculation. The fire contract with the city of Monterey has agreed upon steps in it. So that's just the agreed upon step in the 5-year contract. And the district council contract is unchanged. And then the third bucket of costs are the manager controlled expenses. And you'll see there are a couple little small things that created this increase, but generally it's basically steady as you go what we've been doing for the last year. So no significant increases, but there are a couple items that you'll see that and we'll take you through.
Can I ask a quick question?
Sure.
Yeah.
On the staff and board stipends piece, the 212, that's a 4.7% increase from budget. Is it because those two positions that you're hoping to fill are not included in the 26 budget?
No. So if that's 4%, and I talked about a 3% increase, but there's also the benefit count. So that's
Got it.
big. So that's all. So that's wages and benefits. So I think a lot of the benefits were calculated 5% increases, big health insurance. We've got new health insurance rates. So that's
Got it.
So it's probably
It's a blend.
blended number.
Got it.
Yes.
And so the reason that the FY 26 forecast is less than the
Yeah.
budget is because of the positions that are unfilled.
That's
Okay.
absolutely correct. Yes.
All right. Thank you.
So looking at the wages and benefits, again, same numbers we just looked at, 4 million in the forecast. The budget was 4.5. Last year it's 4.7. This year, again, this is just based on filling positions. And 3% increase for the staff and also whatever we're projecting for benefits. And for police and fire, again, it's the UAL calculations. Headcount, as we discussed, is the same. We've just shuffled one position, social media specialist, that's moved into kind of re-amalgamated finance, marketing, and administration department. And we've kind of pared planning back to just planning, because you'll see in the chart here that Chris is going to have planning. I'm sorry, she's going to keep marketing with her, and planning is going to be just a pure planning and development function. The org chart proposed here, I believe, is basically unchanged from last year. Again, we just moved some, I think, one position between positions on where they kind of reporting. But again, this is unchanged in terms of headcount.
To make that clear, when I was doing the planning and marketing was my title under that focus. And so marketing was underneath the deputy executive director at that time. It'll come up and I'll retain the marketing. So that person that supports that position will go above and not be under the deputy executive director. So
Got it.
just a small switch.
Okay.
So salaries, the salary ranges that are in here. So let me step back from that. The salaries that are in the budget are based on 3% increases from existing salaries. The ranges that currently we are working with are unchanged. We are, however, we have a couple studies that we're doing, one on the ranges, but also we'll probably be bringing back to you next month a recommendation of more of a stepped program, steps within the range of the positions. So right now, people basically get 3% increases every year, and there isn't a clear path for someone who, let's say, takes on more responsibility or gets more training or whatever to, let's say, go to get to the higher end of the range quicker.
Mhm.
That's what we're having our HR consultant help us kind of model.
Yeah, we moved this 5 or 6 years ago, I think, to this type of a structure. But really in working with CPS HR consulting, this is unusual,
Mhm.
public agencies for sure. And it's not necessarily the most transparent process for employees to understand.
Mm.
So I think it's really important that, and so we've been looking at this and really looking at all of the job descriptions, making sure exempt and non-exempt are also appropriately identified. So we'll bring back the salary, the org chart, and we'll identify exempt and non-exempt on it. When we come back the next time, we're finishing that up just to confirm, as well as looking at the ranges and all the job descriptions, all encompassing, while we're also looking at the salary study. So we'll have it all here in the next week and a half. We've had some preliminaries, but I really think that it's important we go back to the step system. It's not clear for our employees how they move beyond and what they're going to get the next year either. So, and as Mark said, it gives us a really better opportunity in doing our evaluations and setting goals every year for our staff to find a way to gain skills and get credit for gaining those skills, whether it's our maintenance team and they get electrician's certification or something. We really want to give the people the tools to grow and to stay, but also give them a really clear path on what that looks like financially for them.
Yeah. Thank you.
And
Jonathan?
and I also think that, the acuity of care and maintenance in the new terminal probably, demand that some of our people get additional training or certifications or
Mm.
kind of step up for new systems, et cetera.
And
Good
that's
point.
something you'll see, especially on the maintenance side, is we will have a either maintenance worker 1 and a maintenance worker 2. We're going to separate those out so that, again, we can start to grow those skills today for what we need next year and really start to articulate and set those goals for everyone so they can start to learn, really think about where do they want their expertise to be? Where do they want to grow personally and and professionally here at Monterey Airport?
That's great, John.
More of just a process question. We, in the budget process, set the top line numbers, but in terms of the process for how staff receive those increases to their salaries, that's totally outside the realm of the board. You're providing some insight to us in terms of your thinking here, but that's not our purview. That's up to you, right?
Well, you will set the salary ranges, and if we move to a step, you'll adopt it. So
That
this
is a
will look different.
process.
That is a
Okay.
process, and that is the transparent process that you really want in a public agency, is to have that very well defined.
So we would have a policy that would come before the board for us to approve in going to a step process.
You will see that in this salary. So the salary range will look different. It will have the steps in it. So it will be
Project manager 1, project manager 2, project manager
Project
3,
B
whatever
with-
it is.
With 7 steps across
Yeah.
or 6, however many. So, and it will have the salary that they will be eligible for under each one of those steps going through.
Understood. Thank you.
Great question. I just want to clarify. So once adopted,
Mhm.
Jonathan's point is true, right? The
Correct.
execution, implementation,
Absolutely.
a step increase for someone is your prerogative.
All our prerogative as administrative staff.
Great.
Correct.
Thanks.
So I'm a little confused because I know that when we changed from steps, because we had steps, that was, I'm going to offend somebody here, I'm sure, that if you showed up every day and you were living and breathing long enough, you got to step 3 or step 4 or step 5. It was like or if you were here 7 years, or it was like it was just an automatic thing, it seemed. And so, which is why we looked at going, and when I'm hearing you talk, you're saying it will be more on achievement of the employee, merit increases, things that they set goals, they reach goals, you set goals, they reach goals, that they then get an increase. So
They could.
with, so when I look at other public agencies, that step thing is just like a automatic, and it doesn't matter as long as they just get a passing grade, come to work every day. They get to the next step.
But that is
So
exactly.
I'm
what we have
just,
it
so let me
today.
finish. So I'm confused to how merit goes into steps. So if you could.
So, okay, so, and that's exactly what we do today, though. They all get a 3% increase. That's like getting a step increase. That is no different than what we're doing today. But we really don't today have a way for them to move beyond that 3% increase that we are anticipating, which is primarily a COLA, cost of living increase. So that part is the same. As long as, unless someone is on a performance improvement plan, everyone will get that increase because they have met and done the duties assigned to them. If they haven't, then we have them on a performance improvement plan. And then once if they can get off of that and they can right themselves, then they'll be eligible for that increase like everyone else was. The STEP program allows us a better path to go, not just up annually, but up maybe 2 steps because you have gotten a certification, you've gotten your AAAE, you've set a goal, and it's going to be based on goals, and it'll be very clearly articulated that they have to have it in, and we do annual evaluations and goal setting. But if they make those goals, there is no incentive today for them to go higher and go further, and as we said, especially in our maintenance team, that we're going to have really different, very precise mechanical units and things in that building that will require a different skill set than what we have today. And if they want to really learn and grow, they can start today trying to think those things through. So I see what you're saying, Director Leffel, but I think it is what we do today still. It's a 3% increase is a 3% increase, which is what is a step increase.
Okay, but Chris, I know, I want to go back to, because this was a long discussion that took several months to get to. And I'm not disputing what you want to go to. I just want to understand how it works, because Mike had asked us when we switched to this, and he had asked the staff if they would go along with it, and they did, which was that there would be, I'm going to call it a pot of money, and $20,000 divided by 20 employees, but that if you were at a substandard, you got nothing. They still got their COLA. I get it, because the CPI index is what the CPI is, and we've been giving that forever. But there was a merit function in there, which I kind of think is what you're talking about. But you're talking about combining it, if I'm clear, so I understand it, that now there is a merit component in there, but that these are the different places you can go within that range. Is that
That is
correct?
correct.
So
And
it's kind of a blend of the two.
a bit. You're right, a bit. But I will tell you, in reality, what was anticipated is not what has ever happened.
Oh, I'm sure of that.
It is a
wouldn't argue.
3% increase or whatever we've set in the budget, and that is it. That is
Okay.
all anyone has received when we went to this range. What the employees don't know is where are they going next? They don't know what that number is going to be. They don't know.
Okay.
And that is what is really unclear. And I think if you talk to HR, they will tell you people are not happy with the system that we have.
Okay.
So that's why I'm recommending it. I think it is a much clearer path. It is something that most agencies do, most public agencies do. This is very unusual for public agencies. This is a profit type setup. And we don't, and again, what this shows and in reality, what happens are two different things.
I'm not pushing back. I just need to
No, I
understand
understand.
how it's
Yep.
gonna
Yep.
work
Yep.
because it was a long process to get to
Yep.
the other.
Yep.
And at the time I was like, huh, okay, we'll see. So,
Yep.
okay.
So Jonathan, then Carl, and before we go on, I just want to, this is not an agendized item today. We're not figuring out for approval a new pay structure.
You are not, you will get that, yes.
But we have an opportunity to provide you a little bit of input, and that's,
Exactly.
I think
And
that's
that's
fair.
really what we're looking for on the whole budget here are the philosophy of how we're doing rates and charges.
Right.
How we plan to do our employee compensation and our department budget and capital budget. So yes, we're looking for that feedback, but I want you to understand that that is where we anticipate bringing it forward based on the conversation today.
Good.
So I just want to show that I currently am employed in a very similar structure to this stepped program. And I have to say as an employee, it's really great because you have a ton of visibility to the range that you're in right now and what you need to do in order to get to the next range if you're interested in doing that. But I also think, to Marianne's point, it allows Chris some flexibility in that if you have somebody who's in a step and is at the cap and is not interested in doing what it takes to go to that next, then they also wouldn't be getting that 3% annual
At some
cost of
point,
living,
yes.
right? If they're capped out and they're not interested in
That is
moving
correct.
up to the next step, then
That is the
they would no longer be getting that just annual 3%.
And that is the downside to it, except that you would do a compensation study to make sure you're still in range. So that is the only way they might, once they cap out to the top, the only way that will ever increase is the compensation component of it is increased based on a study showing that we are out of range for that job description.
Which I think we've done at least 4 times, 5 times since I've been on the board.
Yeah, probably right. Mhm.
That was all I had.
Thanks. Carl?
Thank you, Chris. Just curious, has CPS chimed in on this or?
Yes, they are the ones that have really, yes, they're the ones that are saying this is extremely unusual for a public agency, the way we have it structured today.
Okay.
Uh,
And I think I see what's happening here. I mean, at first glance, I looked, I said, oh my God, the deputy director is reporting to the social media specialist. But I think that's just, the boxes are too big and they're overflowing there.
And yeah, shame, they're not.
Okay.
It goes around, it goes around it. It goes around.
Goes around it.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
That's a good catch. Yeah, actually,
You
yeah.
Draw that
Yeah,
line, yes.
yeah.
John?
The COLA will still remain in the new proposed system. I mean, people are still gonna get their COLA.
That is basically how it will work, yeah.
Yeah.
And if they're at step 3, the COLA will be to step 4, as long as they are not on a performance improvement plan and they've done and met all of the goals and responsibilities of their job description. That is correct. If they want to go beyond the COLA and really reach.
Yeah, that's
That's
the
where.
merit encouragement. But I mean, but to Director Amati's question, as I understood it, is that once they're capped out, they're not going to get the COLA. They don't get the 3% increase.
Same if they got to the top of the range here as well, too. That's no different either. If you're
Oh.
at the top of the range, you're at the top of the range.
Got it.
You're done. That's, unless we, in the future, you implement a step and a COLA.
But the range is I mean, the assumption there is that the range is fair, meaning that they are at the top of the industry is saying this is your highest value that you could earn. Okay, all right, then I'm completely clear. Thank you.
Just a couple of points of information on this. So when salary ranges are developed, typically the max of the range the consultants look at is about 75%.
Okay.
So the min is usually like 25%, the max is like 75. So even the max range isn't like the max in the study. It's pared back from that.
Okay.
The other point of clarification is when we speak of COLA, what we've done historically here with the 3% is it's a proxy for COLA. So in other words, we don't say, oh, well,
Right,
you know,
right, right.
inflation was
Exactly
3.3
right.
this last year, so you get 3.3,
Right, right.
or if it was 2.5, so it's been a proxy for something.
Well, it's been
Call it
better.
COLA.
It's
Yeah.
been better. I mean, over the last 10 years, that 3% has been better, I would say, to regular wages. I mean, people haven't been getting that 3% in the private sector. So,
Yeah, I mean, well, it depends on, what inflation's been. I mean, but yeah,
I get it. I
yeah,
understand it. I
but
appreciate
you
it.
understand. So in other words, it is an arbitrary number that we use for budgeting, and it's an arbitrary number that we've used to actually implement, but it's not based on a independent study
Yeah,
year by
yeah.
year.
I mean, I would
to-
call it a best guess. I wouldn't, because arbitrary seems like it's just like here, but I mean, it's a best guess.
Yes,
Yeah.
it's an approximation.
Yeah. Right. 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 Okay. All right.
Anything else? Good.
I also need to do a quick break. If you're,
Do you want to take 5?
Yeah.
Okay.
All right, we'll pick up where we left off.
Yes, hopefully we'll get a slide. Okay. Yes. So now we're going to go into that third bucket of costs, which are the manager controlled expenses, which we stratify and report as to by department. I took a kind of fresh look at this year, and I've kind of stratified 2 additional cost buckets to I think to create some clarity here, and I'll tell you exactly what that is. So finance, marketing, and administration is basically the finance and administration department of last year, with the marketing costs moved into there. Planning is purely the planning function. Maintenance and custodial is unchanged. Airport ops is unchanged. What I did identify is what I call the enterprise fund shared costs. We had some shared costs kind of spread amongst the various departments, and I think it's a better control to put them all kind of in one bucket and say, okay, here are the shared costs, and a paperclip, it was a paperclip. If it's in finance or if it's in planning, it doesn't really matter, right? And the other thing I did is thinking about the legacy terminal where we are today, and then the new terminal, the replacement terminal. So I put basically the costs of the terminal that I could identify, basically primarily utilities, and also the maintenance aspect of that. So in fiscal 27, we should not have any operating costs for the replacement terminal. Hensel Phelps has confirmed to us that they have in their budgets the utility costs, basically, to like spin up the terminal during construction testing. So really looking towards next year, that one of the things we'll have to address is we're going to have obviously the operating costs of the replacement terminal. We'll have the operating costs of the legacy terminal, and then how do we optimize the economics of the legacy terminal through doing something with the space that we're going to have here, et cetera. So that's kind of like next year's nut to crack. But I think just in terms of kind of thinking about this, identify it for fiscal 27, carry that forward into 28, and really look at, if you look at this terminal, I mean, a lot of the costs here are a function of 500,000 people a year coming in and out of this place, right? So if those 500,000 people are going in and out of the new terminal, you would think that a lot of the costs here, particularly water would go down dramatically. Hopefully electricity go down dramatically. So, but I think my goal would be to get the legacy terminal self-sustaining as well. Let's figure out a lease plan to get people in here that for whom, being in the airport makes sense. Maybe that's rental cars, maybe that's the airlines, maybe it's, X, Y, Z, but to essentially have this be, net cost neutral. I don't know if that's achievable yet, but that would go. So that's why I kind of broke out the legacy terminal as kind of a separate entity. And then in terms of expenses for police and fire, police just has some nominal communication costs that we pay for, and then the fire department outside of their contract is basically we have the obligation to maintain the vehicles. The board of directors, we do have in there the election cost in the budget, and that's why you see that increase primarily. And those are kind of the broad strokes there. So we'll go through in detail. In finance, marketing, and administration, probably the only significant increase is in the again, liability and property expense. We're in the PRISM program. We do not have the final number, but they told us to budget high. And so I've taken that to heart. And so this is kind of like the high side of what the insurance expense would be for this coming fiscal year. And we'll probably know that number probably 3 to 4 months from now. So I don't anticipate that this will change between now and our final budget. We do have a couple of increases of the economic impact study. We will get that completed this year. I don't know exactly when we'll present it to the board, but the work is underway. They have been provided all the information they need to complete their study. They're actually coming out, I think, next week or so to do their field work and talk to talk to us, talk to the FBOs, get a sense of some of the economic drivers here. So that was a cost in the 26 budget that doesn't recur.
Mark, quick question here.
Yes.
Are they coordinating with C Monterey and the work that they're doing?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
'Cause that's, I mean,
correct. And also, I also gave them I gave them the ROAC, the report of the airport consultant.
yeah, that was another great one. Right.
I like, well, you want to know what's going on here.
Right,
Here's
right.
Like a 150-page study that's
Right.
done. So, yeah, so they have the ROAC, they have the C Monterey, they have they've been given either that information or told to access.
Yeah,
information.
that should be an interesting report.
Yeah. So we should see that pretty shortly.
And I'll talk to
Yes,
others. So SCADST grant, so we've added in because we are anticipating that we will be seeing that back again, in the spring, if that's what United has indicated. And so part of our SCADST requirements was a match. So that's for marketing. Also, I've taken down marketing and social media down some because last year we had increased it because we knew that I was temporarily doing the executive director position and I would need additional help. And Amanda was out on maternity leave. So we had bumped it up for additional outside consultant help for this fiscal year. And so Amanda's back. We plan to have the new person in. I will be doing marketing. And so we've taken those down slightly.
Okay.
That's why those are a little bit different.
Oh, there it is. Yeah.
I have a question. Well, is the SCADST grant that 750 that we have available to help new carriers come in? Is that what that is?
It is for Chicago service.
Okay.
United is the one that has the contract for it. They have the minimum revenue guarantee contract.
That's what,
Because they came to the table first. So it was whomever came to the table first and asked to do that service.
yeah.
So we have the MRG for temporary or for the seasonal service with the caveat in it that they can ask to continue it when they come back in the fall, in the spring for more regular service.
Okay, that's the what, but then I mean, I'm clarify for me then what the expenditure is now we're paying on that. Is that what that
Yeah.
is? Or,
That is, we had required matches to pay to be able to get that
oh,
$750,000.
okay. Now, it's totally clear now. Okay, thank you.
So we had a required match that and we also would waive fees too. So
Yeah,
we would
yeah,
waive
exactly
the
right. Yeah,
landing
yeah.
fees
Okay.
As well.
Okay.
Mark, I have a question on the
Yes.
economic impact. Because I think they're using some Arizona State students or something. Is,
Well, the only people I've talked to have PhDs. So, so Dr. McFeeters is the main guy, and he's with ASU, and I don't know what he is.
and he's using ASU students is, I think.
But for example, the guy coming out next week is Dr. Seth somebody, so he's a PhD. So what I've seen so far is it's, high level academicians, but
Okay.
I don't know how. So, and then what you may be thinking of is the last time they did the study, they actually came out and they like took surveys in the terminal.
Oh, no, it's ridiculous. It was the biggest waste of time and money.
And
That-
so they're not doing that this year. They're gonna basically get that information from another data source. They're not doing any internal interviewing of like, how was your stay? How many days did you stay? How much did you spend on hamburgers? And none of that, so.
Okay,
Yeah.
but what I would like is, because this has to be done right. We've been asking for this for a long time. Can we see a draft before it becomes a final? That's what I'm asking.
Absolutely,
That's the
absolutely.
plan.
I-
No, absolutely.
I don't want to be handed a final and then lose my mind.
You,
Because I think they've had a hard time and they've been dragging it out. And so I just want to make sure that they're capturing everything. And none of these people know our area. So I think it's really important that everything gets in there.
well,
There's nobody that's working on it that is really familiar with Monterey County. Nobody except staff. And so this is our way to tell our story.
you will see a draft, absolutely. Okay, Jonathan,
Before we move on from slide 28, the last three line items, marketing, public relations, and social media, what fits into those three different categories?
So marketing is most of what we do in market for our TV advertising that we work
That's
with
TV?
Shidlaw. So
Okay.
that is primarily marketing. Public relations are sponsorships and other things that we do as it relates to outreach. And then the social media marketing are all of our Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, whatever else we're doing for ads there. So those are the three kind of components. We also have in public relations some money for aviatrix to help with our metamorphosis posts and all of that we do. So that's in the public relations. So it's our project project PR is also under public relations.
Can those be charged back to the grant?
They
AVA?
could have, but we did not put it in our grant. So we did not have those administrative costs in our grant. For our grant, especially for the terminal, it's 100% construction.
So the 161,100,000 under public relations, sponsorships and outreach?
And public relations outreach, correct. Mhm.
Would it be possible to see a breakdown of that category from last year in terms of where those dollars went? Perfect.
Mark, back to you. Okay, Moving ahead, maintenance and custodial. I don't want to speak for Whitney, but I will speak for Whitney. Nothing really extraordinary here. There are a couple of things that were, reduced. I think we had some wildfire mitigation costs, tree trimming things that were in this kind of one-offs that were in this year's budget, that aren't in next year's budget. And so, but overall, please.
Overall marginal changes. There's been, in terms of district vehicle fuel, prior board members may remember that we had fuel on site. We no longer have fuel on site, so we're susceptible to costs of the market. So there's increases there. Everything else is just general upkeep, necessary tools to complete airfield specific jobs, terminal specific jobs, general repair and maintenance.
And just, I mean, repair and maintenance is always our best guess because, because a repair is something that you didn't anticipate happen and now you got to fix it. Whereas, preventive maintenance hopefully, reduces your repairs. But it's, I think the experience here is that, there always is something.
I have a question. Chris, do you anticipate once we've had some vacating of this terminal for the usage down there? I know plumbing has been an issue because it's old. Do you foresee in the following year, then we would need some heavy duty maintenance in order to get this, while we don't have as many people using it, to just get it ready for whatever else we're going to put in here? That it seems like that would be a prudent time when we don't have 500 people sitting in the front of the building.
Yeah, I think a couple things. Yes, we would do some, but it could be tenant improvements as well, depending on who's coming in here. So it might be, some of those costs might be borne by a new tenant that might want to come in and have a space here in this existing building. And
Although, I mean, sewer is
yeah, sewer. I think, the bulk of our problems are the passengers and what they're throwing into the toilets. Really, it's paper towels and things like that that just clog up the system. We did see, especially during COVID, it was masks and it was hand wipes and all the things that don't biodegrade correctly. So those were our really big problems. We did, at that time, we did reline our sewer system. So our system has been definitely better, but we still have those issues at different locations. And it really is passenger related typically, not necessarily a function of the system. It's
not like tree roots or something else that's making that
Nope.
issue.
No, it really is just abuse.
Mhm.
Okay. Operations department, Whitney, do you have any comments here?
Just follow on to Chris's mention of upgrades to the badging system. So that will be, some of the costs will be borne on the operations department. Other contract services, we have seen a slight uptick in wildlife. So we've done a little bit of an increase to our USDA contract so that they can take things that are there. Other than that, nothing significant.
Thank you. Okay. So enterprise fund shared costs, this is kind of a new grouping of costs that were kind of spread amongst the various departments in the past. Really just two areas of uptick, ADP processing in terms of our stepping up of our ADP system and getting in full compliance with current and future tax and labor laws. We've increased that program and kind of stepped that up. And hand in hand with that, you see the increase in the HR, which is bringing on CPRS, which is kind of like I think it's a significant increase in expertise and service to the district. So that's where we see invoice our increases there. Otherwise, everything else is But, you know, like some of the shared services is, you know, it's primarily like the computer system and, you know, kind of pencils and paper clips and those kind of things.
The computer system, that's hardware and support, or that's?
That's
o-
everything.
Okay.
Yep.
Yes, and it's primarily software and support. Um, I don't think we have anything in there for any additional.
Yeah, I do. We have 5. Yeah, so we're on a system that every 3 years, computers get replaced. We don't wait for them to have problems. So it is part of our policy. So, and we have it so that it's about 5 every year. So nice.
And it
rotation.
rotates. Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
Keeps it a nice rotation of what we need.
You don't always get the new one and then hand down the
Yeah.
devices.
We don't do hand-me-downs.
Okay, so legacy terminal, so there's basically 2 components here. There's the actual repair and maintenance of the terminal. And again, this is our kind of our best guess based on experience. We were a little bit higher than, you know, the forecast is we're going to be a little bit above the budget. But we did have some kind of one-off things this year. And so again, that's really a kind of a studied best guess. And then just the utilities to run the terminal, water, electricity, and one of the hopes is that because we get a lot of our power here off the solar array, hopefully that the work that we did recently to do some repairs to the solar array will increase the efficiency there. But really, it's a function of you know, it's a function of weather, it's a function of efficiency, and then you know, just what the running rate is on the terminal in terms of, you know, weather and heating and cooling and those kind of things. So again, this is an educated estimate based on our experience. But I think it's illustrative to kind of have it all in one place and see, okay, this is what it kind of costs to keep this thing going.
And I would say we got our report from March, April, and it was above anticipated production. So the repairs we've done have definitely brought us back to where we anticipated our production to be. But again, all of these are good problems to have. It means we have a lot of people coming through the terminals, so we're using a lot more power. People are charging their phones. They're using the bathrooms, they're using water, they're using all of the infrastructure we have. And as we have more people, we have more infrastructure use. So
I have a
the
question.
costs go up.
Yeah, Carl?
On the solar panels, how old are they?
We put them into production in 2017, so 9 years.
So what's their life, 20 before the
20.
output diminishes?
You start to see a little bit, you know, as it starts, and we did have that
Yeah, right.
slight diminish
Soaking.
because of a couple of things that needed to be repaired, but we did the repairs and we're seeing us back. We've always been above production prior to, and I think that's what we just saw again this last month was a bit above anticipated production. Once we went and made the repairs, plus it was a beautiful month as well. too.
Yeah.
So.
And if we had to guess on what the production is as far as our usage, what percentage is covered by the solar
It's-
arrays?
It's modeled to be 95% of the power that we control at the time we installed it. We have added additional uses to it. So we've added Fenton Keller building to the solar array. So as we've brought other properties on, we've added those uses to the solar array. It's hard to tell you that today because it
Right.
wasn't necessarily producing at the rate we wanted it to for about 9 months.
Okay,
But that's what it was modeled for. It was 95% of the power we controlled at that time. And we're probably, you know, close to that, if definitely in the 90s.
good. Okay, thank you.
Yeah, John?
Yeah, it's generally 0.5% a year is the
Okay.
degradation. So, yeah.
But at some point it just drops off very quickly, doesn't it? Or does it
No, that
always
it,
just sort of?
it's a hysteresis. So there's that soaking in the beginning and you can lose as much as 3% that first year. But then it settles down and it averages out over 25 years, about 0.5% per year.
Okay.
Yeah, and it's pretty stable at that point.
And then after 25 years, it's just the life expectancy of the material.
Yeah, that's really, it really, it still produces.
Yeah.
I mean, there's still value, but then there's the salvage cost actually becomes worth more than the power price. And so, yeah, so often in the utility scale side, they'll recycle them to get, and it can almost cover the entire cost of repowering. But it's only starting to happen now because panels have only been out for about as long.
Well, I hope you're on the board in 25 years. to
Right.
Walk us through this.
Right?
There'll be much smarter, younger kids.
Okay,
All right.
And I'm quick, yeah, I was just saying, quickly go through these last so we can get to capital as well. 'cause I
Yeah,
know
very good.
You have to head out at.
Yeah,
got it.
But
so police and fire, really, our exposure here is, the district vehicle, what it takes to keep that thing going. And Whitney can speak to, yeah, things break and it's expensive, but you have to fix them.
I would just add that with our new fire truck, we do have a warranty. So lots of the parts are warranted. We get those for free, but there's still labor too.
Yeah.
And we also when we brought them over into the new building, we took over all of the utility costs, et cetera, for that. So they are just tenants in that building. It is our owned building, and we take care of that building.
Okay. Board of Directors, the only thing of note here is that I've included an estimate for the election expense. Should our two existing directors be challenged?
Counting on you two.
Yeah. Try not to piss anybody off right now.
Did we get reimbursed for my race? I'm sorry. We did.
You didn't run, so there was no cost associated.
Exactly, yeah.
with your-
Well, I mean, I still register with the county, and so I was still a candidate, and that's what triggers the charge, correct?
No, it's only if you're.
On the ballot.
challenged. On the ballot and challenged is what triggers the charge.
Okay.
If no one runs against them, we do have the choice of putting them on the ballot. But why would you do that?
You wouldn't.
We don't.
Some places do.
We're not. Why would we pay
You
that
have to pay,
money?
right?
Yeah.
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 Okay, 2801, these are just our estimates of operating costs. And again, we had a one-off fire tree trimming project that we did there.
Thank you.
Fiscal year. Okay, plan of finance, this is the existing plan of finance. There's no changes to what you've seen before. Just to go through a couple of highlights here. If you look at the 2027 total revenues available for coverage, it's 4,070,000 in the plan. And if we hearken back to the slide that we had, which was, I think, slide number 6 or 7, slide number 9. So remember these two numbers: 4,070,000 for revenues, 2,622,000 for debt service, the 155 coverage. If we go back quickly to slide number. So there's your 2622 coverage, and we got 4 million and change. So that's why we're dead on to what our plan of finance has always been. So that is part of the strategy. So again, these numbers so thinking about fiscal 27, we will obviously come back to the board with the recommendation for the TIPIA loan once we get the recommendation and approval of the TIPIA loan and the approval of the bonds when that is all kind of locked in. I will say again, significant that we do have cost certainty on the projects that we're doing, which drives everything. So that's significant. So GMP 4 has given us that cost certainty.
And our goal is to have those to you no later than September, because we're Right, and we're getting into this federal fiscal year for Chivia.
Right. Yeah, that's the push now is to get this closed before September 30.
So I see the CPE starts to level out around just over 14 over the total engagement of the loan. Is that kind of where we're expecting it to live as long as, there aren't other things that are coming into play?
Yeah, it should be. That's what, so Unison does the model for us based on a lot of input from us and our budget, et cetera. And so, but yeah, that's what the model indicates. And so I think that's what it should be. There shouldn't be any significant increases the CPE.
Okay, thank you.
There could be decreases if we see more passengers, based on passenger
Right.
plane list. So,
Right.
if we see more, then that number would be less.
Great.
Nice.
And the only increase would be if we're really in trouble and raise a lot of fees.
Yep. Okay, capital budget, needless to say, our primary focus is on the replacement terminal, and all its components. So those projects are carrying forward. The rental car, ready return project we'll talk about. That's the same project, but just going forward with kind of a different solution given what, we ended up doing in the terminal. And then we'll talk to you about the taxiway A relocation design component, the parking shuttle service proposal, and a little bit of cosmetics that we're going to do on building C. So Chris, do you want to talk about the first one?
So this is the crux of the whole project. It's why we've been doing our safety enhancement program is
Mm.
moving taxiway alpha. So, and making that shift. So we need, we want to position ourselves for a fiscal year 2027, federal fiscal year 2027 grant for that project because we will wrap up the terminal in 2027. Once we've moved passengers out of this building, we can start that construction. Federal fiscal year would end in September of next year. So we could anticipate starting construction as early as August, September, but we would be in a position at that point to have, if we want to design it this year and get reimbursed when we get our construction grant. So get it designed so we can be out to bid to be able to take that grant next spring, fall, or summer. So that is the goal here. And this is based on an estimate that we currently have for design. And, part of it is not only the design of the relocate of and the shift of the 1,800 linear feet of taxiway, but also wrapping up the final phases of our stormwater improvements. We've done some along the way, but there are a couple that just have to be wrapped up into this as we do it to meet state water, stormwater improvement components. So it's always been known that they've looked at it as a program, just like we've looked at it as a program with interconnected components.
Thank you.
I have a question because I keep reading about the amount of money that looks like it's going to go into towers.
Air traffic control towers. We've had conversations with them. We've done some siting analyses with them, but there's a couple hiccups. They want 2 acres and they want to stay on the south side.
Why do they need 2 acres?
It's their standard today. We cannot find 2 acres on this side of the airport to site a tower. So I wouldn't say we're at an impasse, but we are on hold. I mean, again, they've done a lot of analyses. They've actually brought their virtual reality headset out here and looked at the airport. We could easily find a place on the north side of the airport, but we just don't have a location here that fits what they are saying they have to have. So we've offered them other options, and I think it's in it's in FAA's hands to come back and tell us what else they would like us to look at.
So if something moved forward on that and we were selected as one of the airports that was going to get a new tower, what is our responsibility dollar wise? Because I know it's like a separate
It is.
category.
Correct. It's in the ATP program. So there is it's the ATP is the terminal. It's in the bipartisan infrastructure law program. And there is some for towers. I would have to go back and look at it. We would be responsible for the build, even though it's a facility for them. I would just have to look at, because I haven't looked at it that close, if it's a 95.5% match or not, if there is a match that we would need to do or not. I will have to go back and look at that.
Okay, I
and
just
get you an answer back on
was
that one.
wondering when I was looking this over if that, because if it came, it would probably come pretty fast when they finally pull the plug on it. That seems to be how they're operating.
And they have, part of it is they have these templates that they're using in a lot of locations. So it's like a designed template for a tower that works for the size of your airport. So that's possibly where the 2 acres come in, and they just want more space from public, with their fencing and, from public intrusion, I guess is how I would put it. That's a piece of it, but impossible on this site.
Just quick note, the first line item under bioretention stormwater treatment, there's 2 spelling errors in storm and water.
Yeah, this is
A PDF, a snip
Well,
of
no,
a,
this is an outside party schedule, and there are a few of Denise was getting on me on that.
Yeah.
Like, well,
Didn't
our
mean to
schedule.
get it.
So,
Hmm.
we'll let our contractor let them.
appreciate that. Thank you.
Okay. Okay, moving on, the next project, Whitney, do you want to talk about that?
Sure. So this is the project that we discussed in the recent board meeting. So we will be purchasing 2 electric carts to shuttle passengers from the new parking lot to the legacy terminal. This project also includes the staffing model for our parking concessionaire, Reimagine Parking, because there is an additional cost component to run that entity.
And this is all CapEx because it has to do with the construction of the terminal. So it's not an OpEx cost. I would also just add that that the staffing is kind of a dynamic solution. And we will be monitoring this weekly, and they will be monitoring it. And if we need more people, we need more people. If we need less people, we need less people. So we're going to try to just have the cost be what would be appropriate for whatever.
Like time and materials.
Right. I mean, at this point, we're kind of guessing in terms of like optimal times and what we'll need, and we'll have an opportunity to fine tune that. Right.
Carl?
Yeah, I think that's great, but these are $50,000 a piece?
No,
Okay.
We were giving ourselves, we gave
I was gonna
ourselves
say, I hope
a
that
little
comes
room.
with a stereo price.
What's your best guess, right?
I'd say 25 with
Okay.
all the, calling them bells and whistles, all the additives that we'll need to the base card.
Okay.
At 25 each, and these are going to be street legal vehicles. Okay.
So when we bring this all back in May, we'll also have behind it a contract with amendment with Republic to provide that service.
Great. And we also anticipate uses for these vehicles beyond the period where it's not the long haul from the farthest part of the new parking lot to the legacy terminal. People are going to be, basically everybody should be able to walk to the replacement terminal from the parking lot. But we have, for example, Chris has pointed out that delivery, we're going to have make deliveries in these cards, and so we will put them to good use. Okay. I'm stuck. Stuck. Vehicle boundaries. And then the last project district expenditure is just some facade work on building C. I think it's great that we've been able to get the lease up activity there. I think it's going to be significant. And it's just a little rough. It needs painting. There's got some metal work on the outside that's kind of rusted, et cetera. So, I don't think we're going to need the entire 50,000 or $100,000 budget, but that's kind of what we're proposing as what we may need to get that kind of optimized. Also, I would say, the aesthetics of the building right now are kind of contractor acceptable, and maybe as we change our tenancy over the years, we might want the building to be a little prettier and a little more for guys that aren't wearing boots every day. So that's another part of the thinking there.
We owe it to, to them, but we owe it to the other tenants as well, that building looks acceptable. And we put 100,000 in initially to get it going. And as you can see, it's a nice investment already. We've already earned that money back. And we feel like there's just a little bit more needs to go into it to make it where it should be. We've done the parking lot, we've really taken care of, and I think our tenants there are very happy with the way we've maintained the facility, and we just owe it to everybody to just do the outside now.
So you've got a quote for the 50, I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
You've got a quote for the 53,000 for that work, and then you've got a little bit of a buffer in case there are other things that you
It was-
wanted to fix
It
them.
was an older quote.
Okay.
So we have not, until we get, a go ahead on this from you as a board, we didn't want to go back out and refresh the quote. So it's that buffer of, it was a quote from last year that we feel like we need this year.
The cash flow budget, I won't take you through all the detail, but I'll take you through it in concept. So when you think about the district's cash flow, there are many, buckets and lanes that are kind of mutually exclusive. So we obviously have the unrestricted cash that we both generate and have the ability to spend without restriction. In terms of sources of cash, the plan obviously is to have proceeds from TIFIA and the grants and the GARBs and then going and also mindful of the fact that if you look at the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5th and 6th columns, we are starting the year with nominally $50 million of proceeds from the interim notes with a corresponding $50 million obligation. And so what this plan shows is that we will repay those. It's actually a redemption process of the interim notes. We will then get the proceeds from TIFIA and the GARBs. We will use. So if you look at the cash flow for this coming year, it's about the use of funds is, so there's the refi, which would essentially should be left pocket, right pocket, zero-sum game. But the net use of funds obviously is the CapEx to build a terminal. So right now we are using, we have 2 grants that we're using for the replacement terminal right now. We're using district funds for the soft costs. We are also using, to the extent that the grants have PFC matches on the terminal, we're using the interim note proceeds to fund that. When the existing grants on the terminal get to that 90% funding limitation, then we'll start funding the CapEx for the terminal through the interim note proceeds, the $50 million. And then somewhere between now and hopefully the end of September, that all kind of gets squared away with permanent financing. And then we have enough money to fund the CapEx for the balance of the year. And end up with a little less cash than we wanted, but again, we'll have a little uptick once the cap limitation goes away on the AIP grants. And also when we square away the entire financing. And again, so it's going to be a function of when we get to the point where, we know exactly where we're getting TIFIA, we know if we're getting anything with the PPBs, we look at what the the rates are, we look at what, we want to do in the garbs, and then we'll bring all that to you, for your approval. So, and that's,
And in reality, this really won't really totally shake out till the 2028 budget. 'Cause
yeah,
that's-
but
That's when all the
for
cleanup
for
will be.
but yeah, the final cleanup of all the cash and where all that ends up, yes. But during the next fiscal year, we'll definitely lock in the financing, and that'll basically set the course of future here for a very long time. And that's what we have.
Wow. All right. Well, let's open this to public comment. And for the record, there is no public in the room here, and no public online that I can see. Okay, we'll close public comment, bring it back to the board for any additional questions or comments. Start on my right here. Jonathan, anything?
Yeah, sure. Well, obviously, the first thing that I just want to say is thank you for what clearly is a lot of work that you've put into the budget. And I also wanted to just say that I appreciate that you are forward-looking for issues and problems and bringing things to us before they become issues and problems and presenting solutions to them. So I just wanted to acknowledge and thank you for that. As looking at the budget, there really are a lot of things that are pretty much out of our control in terms of the kind of ins and outs. We're taking on a lot of expense and a lot of debt. And so obviously there are, in that circumstance, you're going to try to bring more money in and spend less money. I have no concerns with any of the fees. I really appreciate that, we've been proactive in reaching out to our partners to make sure that, they're aware of the changes coming and have the ability to provide feedback. So I'm comfortable with the increases that we are looking to raise rates where we can. The one piece where I think I'd like to see a little bit more of the haircut is the sponsorships and some of those things where I feel like we have a little bit more control in terms of the expenses. And so that's some place where I would like to see a little bit less money. I know last year I was talking return on investment and all getting into the numbers of, per flight and all of that. But I think for me, that's just kind of where I'd like to see us spend a little bit less money.
I will bring that back, but I would say that that's our opportunity to talk to people, are those types of events. We don't have anything to sell as an airport. We are an infrastructure component, and to be able to get out into the community when big events are happening and talk to those people that are coming with the hope that they'll come back. And if they haven't flown to Monterey, that then they know we're here, I think is that great value. And it's the one opportunity that we get to really have face to face with people. But I will bring that back to you.
Good. Thank you. Marian?
Well, again, thank you. I do know it's a lot of work. Mark, I was just going to say LAFCO's is a 0.85. That's the increase we're going to get. So I saw it was the same. I don't know if you want to change that.
I can,
It's minimal,
yeah,
but
I can tweak that.
okay, but it is 0.85. We approved the budget, so.
Okay.
And we've been 2.5%, 3% every year, so we really were able to hold it. I just think this is really fair, and I really believe some of these things, like Uber and Lyft and that, we got a little behind. We weren't paying attention that it was a category of opportunity. So easing into it is a good thing. And I cannot say enough how much I appreciate those little carts to bring people, because it is. I just read a huge report on why people choose where they choose to do business. And it was in relationship to aging population.
Yeah.
And that if people who are less mobile or have not as good a vision, whatever, if they feel safe and comfortable and if it's easy, they will use it. It was a study on stairs and that people will go into a really lovely furniture store. But if they have to climb stairs, only 31% will go to the second floor.
Hmm.
And that was across all ages. Like they just did a study. It's like crazy. So I think, as long as we can make this so it is so accessible and so easy, our ridership will continue and pick up and the public responds to it. So thank you.
Not sure what that says about American health.
Well, the seats in those Cadillacs are big.
God, it's a little scary.
One, I echo what my two colleagues, my two board members say. I mean, this is phenomenal, and actually, I mean, it really heartens me. I mean, we have an amazing staff, and I am so thankful. You guys make being a board member here very, very easy. And so, and I'm also, I want to kind of reiterate that I'm here to support you guys because this is what is, I mean, this is what comes out of that. So that's that. On the sponsorship component, I mean, I absolutely believe that that's money well spent. That's incredibly good. I mean, I'm at those things, and this community loves this airport. I hear that, and then those who are coming here, I also hear that this is a wonderful. So if we get to talk to them and continue to keep confirming that, that's how we. I mean, I think that's how we improve. And so I'm a huge fan of all of our sponsorship. And then to the point of we are listening to kind of what our demographic, what our customers are going to be. I mean, we actually are benefiting because the boomers are retiring and they want premium service, and we provide that. And so for us to be making accommodations for that, I think is absolutely smart. So again, you guys are phenomenal, and thank you very much.
Carl?
Thank you. A lot of information, well put together, very easy to follow. I do have a couple quick questions. I know we went over it briefly, but what is our current cost per employment?
It's right around 12, little couple pennies below 12,
Okay. And then where do we anticipate going up to?
13.
13. So it's,
With a max of 14 is right now,
Yeah.
what is in the plan of finance is going up to 14.
14.
And the airlines know that. We
And they're
communicated with
perfectly
them, and
happy?
they're fine with that. They have not given us a hiccup on that. They were very comfortable with those numbers.
So,
I know in the past, I'm sorry, go ahead.
so to give you a specific answer, so the budget for fiscal 26 was 1192 for our CPE. So we're talking about going up $1.08.
Okay. Okay, very good. And how do we compare? I know in the past we've looked at this, how we compare to our contemporaries on CPEs. Where does that put us?
Let us get back to you on that.
Okay.
We'll get you a better number. I don't have the exacts right here. We're still absolutely within the ballpark
Okay.
of
Yeah.
what our.
Maybe you can just bring it up in air service and we can report out later on that. That'd be great. Thank you. What is our long-term plans for parking? I know we have considered taking that over, but it sounds like we're going to be adding these carts and that's going to require somebody to drive them around.
So that is just for the interim right now.
Okay,
And that is to get us through to the new terminal location.
okay,
And yes, when we bring you back fiscal year 28 budget, that is still what we're anticipating is bringing parking in-house. But this gives us, part of what we're doing in this temporary location or the temporary configuration is we actually are going to install the new software that will be part of the new parking system.
okay.
Republic or Reimagine will manage that for us, but we'll be monitoring it, watching and seeing how labor intensive it is and how it works so that when we get to the next fiscal year's budget, we have a sense of how and how many people we might need to manage the program and how it works and et cetera. So that is still our goal, but we will be monitoring it this year and really learning about it.
So the equipment that we're putting in, is that, I mean, how do we determine what equipment to put in? And
It was bid. So
Yeah.
as part of, hence, as part of Otto's, because this is the land side, so it's Otto's constructions component. It was put out to bid and it was best value. Our team had a say on it. They got to look at it. They got to look at all the different components of it. And we chose not only the lowest, but one that seemed to be the best product for how we operate.
okay,
So that has been put into place and really pretty affordable. So.
well, that sounds good.
Wait, do you want to just like talk a little bit about it so we,
I don't, Whitney, you have more of the details. Let me have her do that.
So if you could give me some specific questions so I can talk you through, you want the name of the company?
No, no.
Type of product?
I think we talked about in the budget, we talked about it is the credit card. Yeah, so it's the credit card. I asked the question, I know the answer, but I think I think maybe that's where Carl's going. Carl's the credit card in and out like you have at San Jose and like you have at major parking areas now.
Okay,
So you put your credit card
right, when you first.
and you go in and then that credit card on the way out and it reads you in the car. You don't even have to put it forward
Correct. They will
anymore.
have
It knows that
LPR,
it's,
they'll have license plate readers.
Yeah.
So you'll have the ability to create a profile to match your card with your car. So you may not even have to take your card out.
I
in some
don't.
instances. Yeah.
San Jose, as I drive up, it just reads it and the bar goes up and I'm out of there.
Okay,
So it's so efficient.
And that's what we'll monitor, as we move to our next temporary location. We knew through this project that parking is one of the things that's going to move often. So we'll have one more temporary location for long-term. That's why the carts will be pushing out and parking a little bit closer to where Benton and Keller is in the interim. And then these carts will become an option. When we get to the long-term, to the new location with the replacement terminal, the long-term parking will be even closer than it was when we were in this building. So it will be a very easy walk. We'll have the premium parking, we'll have the long-term parking, but it will be even closer than it was when we had long-term here.
okay. Sounds good, thank you.
Okay, so Mark, you have a way of simplifying the vastly complex such that a knuckle dragger like me can understand plan of finance and budgets. So thanks for that. Appreciate it. The, the staff work that has gone into this has been phenomenal. And this is building on year as we've done all of this work. So I just want to echo my colleagues' sentiments in thanking you, Chris, and the rest of the team, the rest of the staff in doing the due diligence. And Finance Committee, we've gone through this in a detailed way, and it was terrific there. And now taking great input from the board. I want to thank the board for constructive, thoughtful diligence and oversight on what is a non-trivial budget and what's going to set our long-term trajectory for decades here as we really bring this plan of finance into completion and start executing it in full. I also want to thank you for continuing to look at the externals and the risks as we negotiate a complex world that seems to be popping up new surprises and challenges at every turn, and really talking to our industry partners and our consultants about that risk, so that we're able to make informed decisions about all of that. So with that, I strongly support what you're proposing. I think you have the support of the board, and would like to ask you what, if anything, additional you need from us today.
I don't think anything at this point. So
Okay.
as we said, this will come back to you, back to finance one final time. If there are any tweaks, we'll bring it back to finance the last time, not the whole thing. And then we'll bring it to the board for approval with all of the other components that go with it at the May meeting.
Fantastic. Thank you. All right. So,
We're
yeah,
just,
thanks.
Okay, thank you, Mark.
go make us more money.
Yeah. Brenda,